So Graham, so let's start with the easy stuff. So let's say you're, and I don't mean this disrespectfully, you're, a soccer mom, you're somebody in the suburbs, you haven't gone out and protested, it's not something you do, but you realize we're on the cusp of some historic shit, or you're, a young person and you've been onlining stuff and now you're like, fuck it, I'm going out. I'm seeing there's, protests at my state capitol or this and that. So for super, super, super young, new green folk, maybe going out for the first time to a protest, advice, general stuff, easy entry level things. What do you got?
Yes. So I would preface this first. If you're looking to, if you see like on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever it is that, hey, there's a protest that's going to be taking place on this Saturday at this area, like it's going to start at a park and they're going to march down to like a town square or something, whatever it is. Think of what you want to do at the protest and then go from there. Do you want to just march? Do you want to take pictures for like record? Do you want to maybe write in your student paper about your experience with the protest? If you're a mom, do you want to like provide some kind of mutual aid for the people who are protesting? Because there's a lot of roles to play within these protests, especially larger ones. So if you're just getting into it, for the soccer mom, I would say, okay, you probably have a wagon, right, for your kids. Why don't you go to Costco, use your card, pick up a couple cases of water and chips and Gatorades, snacks, give food out to people, because teenagers and young people, college people who want to get involved in these protests, they never like bring that kind of shit. And those are the most important people, I think, to these protests, is people who actually keep people like, not dying of heat stroke. So that would be my first piece of advice. You think of what it is you want to, what role do you want to play at a protest?
Nice. And I guess I'll intersperse here. So if you're going to a protest, if you're like a first time protester, or you're somebody who's going out and in your head, you're not going to go do quote illegal shit. You're going to go out, you're going to go march wherever they have a parade permit essentially. You're going to go out and you're maybe going to do some chants. Maybe you're bringing your teenage kids with you. Maybe you're going out with the neighborhood community, whatever. And then you're planning on going back home. If you're going to be a peaceable protester who's going to, just, do everything by the book, I would suggest you actually look for whatever the closest parking is to the event location, because chances are it's lots of other people parking there for the same reason. There's security in numbers. You don't have to worry about running into like angry, white nationalists looking to pick off stragglers. The reason that this advice is important is because when we get later to advanced protesting, I'm going to tell you to do the opposite. So if you are a young or new protester, there is safety in numbers. Stay with the flock. You will find lots of people such as yourself. They're pretty easy to pick out in the crowd. And Grem's advice of bringing extra waters, Gatorades, Cliff Bars, crap like that. If you have the money and you can afford it, there are people who literally show up at protests with like coolers on wheels and like they march around with the protester. They'll have, if this is like a protest where they get a parade permit, which is what it's called. When you go out to get a protest and there's a set march and the police know and stuff. And there are people who will literally come out and they'll set up at like a park or a specific sidewalk, like on the way, almost like they do it like marathons. Yep. So this is something you can do very easily at any level. All right, ping it back to Graham. Graham, what else you got for first timers?
So first of all, change of clothes. I would not wear anything that you aren't afraid of losing. If you have your favorite campaign t-shirt that you got from a Bernie Sanders campaign and you really don't want that to get ruined by any kind of inclement weather or other chemical agents like I did, maybe don't wear that.
That's fair.
Wear some clothes that you don't mind losing, and good shoes. Not like your best Jordans, like good shoes that you can walk and run in for an extended period of time, and also that you don't mind losing.
Yeah, that's fair. I for what it's worth, there was like a 6-day span when I was covering the Eric Garner protests in New York City, and they literally started in Union Square or Washington Square Park, which is the lower end of the island of Manhattan. And they
Yeah.
would more often than not go all the way up past 125th in Jamaica. So you're talking about 7-8 miles.
Yeah.
Then we'd go West Side Highway, Brooklyn Bridge, so there were nights we recovered 10, 12 miles. And the 5th night I was out live streaming, literally in the middle of marching, the bottom of my shoe just sort of exploded. Like it just
that'll
blew
happen.
off of my foot, like, because, they weren't new sneakers. I've been running around with them in a year. And then like 8 straight days on hot pavement doing like 12 miles. And literally my shoe exploded. And like I took off my other shoe and took off my sock, put both my socks on my other foot. And I walked around on one foot like a sneaker with no sock and my other foot with 2 socks. And I got home, like I had to take the subway. I got home, my feet were wrecked. So,
Jesus Christ.
very good advice.
Yeah. Good shoes, like a backpack that you can buy at like Academy or Payless for like $10, $15 is good. Because again, don't be afraid to lose things. Don't bring anything that you're afraid of losing unless you're like doing citizen journalism stuff and you're, taking photos or recording.
Yeah. And I would also say for people who are recording and you do media, somebody who did this for a living, I don't want to tell people to not do citizen journalism. You should do citizen journalism. You should look for trainings in your area to cop watch if it's something you can do. But please realize that being a, quote, citizen journalist and saying they're screaming citizen journalist while the police beat you is not going to help you. Unless you have some kind of, something that's literally released by like City Hall or some kind of like corporate press pass, you are going to get wailed on just like protesters. Don't think yelling citizen journalist holding a cell phone in the air is going to protect you if and when the ass kickings start.
Mm-hmm. Also, if you see any cops that you're interacting with have what they call morning tape on their badges or their names, you maybe don't be on front line. Maybe be away from them.
For those who don't know what Gremloe is discussing, if you know about the Thin Blue Line, the Thin Blue Line originally started as a special band that police would wear across their badge if somebody in their precinct or their police department got killed in the line of duty, and it was originally called a band of mourning. And so all the cops for, a week or whatever, they would, it was all of them together. They didn't have badge numbers. They were just all one. And that originally started back in like the 70s or early 80s as a thing. And over the years, the Thin Blue Line became a, huge marketing and, PR thing that sells lots of merch. But more importantly, what Gremloe's referring to is if police are covering the numbers of their badges, it means they know they're going to do some nefarious shit. I will follow this up with saying, if you ever see cops, especially off to the side or behind the cops in the front, and you notice more than 1 or 2 of them, and they start putting on, like they put their shit down and they start putting on gloves that they have on their belt, the ass kicking's incoming. Because the reason that you wear the gloves is so you don't get blisters on your hand from using the billy club when you beat hippies.
Yep. Or if they have knuckle protectors, which we'll get into that on their gloves. And, if anyone's ever been in an actual fight, the first thing that happens is you bust open your hand when you hit something. And that's a good indicator that you were doing something you weren't supposed to.
Yeah. And somebody, Lost Sue, thank you for putting this in my chat. And it's something I was going to bring up. Bring a black Sharpie with you. Make sure it works. You should be writing telephone numbers on your arm in black, like non-washable Sharpie. Usually when I went out, I would write the NLG, which was the National Lawyers Guild. They have an 800 number, and then the National Lawyers Guild, they're the people you might see at a protest with bright green neon hats. They also those are called legal observers. And they're all lawyers who they volunteer and donate their time and go out. So either the number for the local NLG or the number for a lawyer, you want to write on the inside of one forearm, and you want it to be on the inside of your forearm so that if you do get arrested, when you get your phone call, you'll be able to read it clearly in front of you on your here, left or right. And then on the other arm, you want to write like your phone number for home or your spouse or somebody else, because depending on where you are, they will take your cell phone and claim it as evidence, and you won't have access to your cell phone to call somebody at home. So black magic marker, writing the number. A lot of times you'll be at a protest, you'll literally hear people go, write down the number for the National Lawyers Guild. And like people just start walking around with Sharpies, writing them on people's arms. So cannot emphasize that one enough.
Yeah. Also, if you, I mean, leftist chats here, I'm sure you love typing a bunch of paragraphs. If you want to, because this happened at a couple protests that I was at, if you want to print up like fact sheets, like, hey, where does the protest start? Where does it end? What's it, like a small map that you can print up on a sheet of paper? And like, what's some like know your rights stuff? There are going to be people passing those out at larger protests. Funny story, I actually thought there was a boogaloo passing out like fascist agitprop at a protest one time, and I went to go ask him about it, and it was literally just, he was an anarchist, but he was dressed like a boogaloo boy.
You see all sorts of interesting folks. I get I now cover when I do cover protests now, they're up in Boston, and so Boston's very difficult because they have a very large punk rock scene, and so being able to delineate like a racist skinhead from like a punk sharp, sometimes difficult, especially at night when people are wearing hoodies and shit. So it depends on what part of the country you're in and what the local populace is. And, you know, like there are times where I will blend in. Like if I go to a Trump rally, I won't wear a MAGA hat, but like I'll wear like a shirt with an American flag on it or something like that.
Oh, brother, I am so excited for the primaries because I'm going to so many Trump rallies.
Yo, I don't know if you saw one night I was on a panel and it was going to be the shit show panel. It was the Queen Alexa thing. And so like I put on like a trucker hat and some shades.
Yeah,
I got the big can of Bud Light. I'm James from America.
Yeah.
End of the line. Yeah. It's that's I don't get too, because you don't want to be too extravagant. If you want to blend in, just like be normal. Like
yeah.
It's the best thing I can tell you.
Like you don't want to look like a mascot. You want to look like a attendee.
Yes. Blend in, be the crowd.
Yeah. Be one. Be like water, my friend.
Be like water. Yes,
okay,
yes.
so,
just let the conservatives flow over you.
So I actually wrote a few things down with chat when I was going over this yesterday. So we already kind of went over like, you know, jeans are probably good because they're durable. T-shirt, light jacket, belt. One thing you don't want is
droopy pants when you're running.
Falling. Yeah, exactly. Also, it's like a last resort medical device if you need it. Change of clothes, good shoes, backpack, first aid kit. You can pick them up for like $10 at your local Dollar General or whatever you have. You know, it doesn't have to be the best first aid kit, but just having one is good.
Yes. Hopefully you're at a protest where you will see like people who are, quote, field medics. You can usually see them. They're literally people who put a Red Cross tape like on their jacket or on their backpack. For the record, 99% of these people are anarchists who they also do trainings at whatever, like the local fucking, you know, free community house is. So always look for those people if you can, much like you look for the people with the green hats who, again, are the NLG people. They're there. Yeah. They're not there to help you, but they're there to witness and take notes and stuff if you get arrested. So again, if you're a normie or a first timer, look for the people in the bright green hats. Look for the people with the Red Cross on their jackets. These are additional ways you can stay safe, and these are the good people to be near if you don't know what you're doing, maybe.
Yeah, and if you do have a first aid kit on you, that doesn't make you a medic. So
Correct.
Don't think because you have like a $50 med kit on you that you can put a like the Red Cross on your backpack and say that you're a medic. That's not what you're there for.
Correct.
You know, you don't want somebody who has an actual injury and you don't have the necessary stuff.
Yeah, no, yeah, definitely don't, you know, no, it's not like, oh, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn last night. Yeah, that doesn't make you a field medic. Like a lot of these people who go out and they come out for protests, some of them are off-duty EMTs, some of them are people who have actual medical training, like, but it's good to have a first aid kit handy because you never know when you are going to need, you know, bandages or, you know, even little things like when you go marching for a lot, people get blisters. They don't know. Like when we talk about like intermediate, advanced stuff, like for me, when I went out after going out a few hundred times and having shoes explode on me, I got to the point where I knew if I was going to a march, I would put Band-Aids on like the inside of the top of the heel of my sneaker in the back. And then I'd put a Band-Aid on my heel.
Yeah.
Before I put my sock on. just so I'd have the extra padding so I wouldn't start to rub out and get blisters and then have them explode while I was walking.
Yeah, and I mean they make stuff specifically for runners that you can get at like a academy or something like that.
Yeah, so there's a lot of things. So no, this is all good stuff. But again, if you can remember, like for me, like I had a pretty standard kit after a while where I had a backpack that had like the mesh pouches on both sides. So like I could bring like one of those big, like tall metal bottles of water. So I had water, and then I'd have like a big plastic bottle of water. So I'd have my water in either bag. I'd have like an extra pair of socks in a backpack, and like I would like pack my bag out. Now I was doing media stuff. So I had like 3 backup batteries, an iPad, 2 cell phones. I had an expanding like shoulder kit to mount a camera. Like I had different shit, but again, for whatever your purpose is, bring a backpack. Like if you're a soccer mom, if you're suburban, young 20-something, you've never been to a protest, bring a backpack. At least bring, a couple bottles of water. You don't realize how dehydrated you get out there when you walk around out in the street. You don't realize it. Bring extra water more than anything else. But, you have a bag, water, Cliff Bar, towel, extra pair of socks. If you're going to be taking pictures or shooting video or live streaming, a backup battery and a cable. If you're not going to be shooting and you're going to be doing anything more than basic ass protesting, then don't bring your cell phone. Like there are many different like instances, like plan to what you need for what you're going to be doing. You don't need to over prep and you don't want to under prep.
Yeah. Like also again, like know what kind of protest you're going to, right? Know who's organizing it. You don't want some like, basically you don't want to get some alt-right group who's organizing, a protest against something, and hey, it turns out that it's like, just an opportunity for a bunch of chuds to fuck with you. You don't want to like end up at one of those, right? Like know what group you're going with, and when you get there, like ask, where's the organizing group, who's in charge? Like just ask these questions. Most people are not going to know, but it's good to at least try and figure out who's who.
And I'll throw this out for people. A lot of people, especially, first timers, you're early into protest, a lot of people find out about stuff like this, like on Facebook, let's say, and you'll have a friend who's sharing, oh, this is a protest. Look, this is going to be at our, our city hall or our state capitol building. Here, share this. You should come out. For those of you who aren't Facebook savvy, especially slightly older generation, any organizing page that you see for an event, it will have a line or a space for who is organizing it. You can click that name. It takes them to their page. You can see how long that page has been active. And over on the right-hand side on your Facebook page, it will show you any and all iterations, how many different names the group has had. Because a lot of times you'll get like a Trump group or a right-wing group. And then they're like, hey, we're going to change this to, Grandmas for Biden. And, we'll put out like fake event locations. And, you show up at a fucking parking lot 20 blocks away. Best case scenario, nobody's around. Worst case scenario, you're showing up into, a giant fucking pit that you don't want to be in. So especially if you're getting stuff off Facebook, click and look for the group, see who the organizers are, look at the page, try to see if there's other people who belong to that group or that page. Do a little, this files under security culture. Know where you're going, know who's, the person who's throwing down for the permit, know where it is in relationship to where you live. Basic shit, but you'd be surprised how many people don't do it.
Yeah, join DSA, folks. Join DSA. That way, at least you can organize to have some people with you. That if you're going to one of these things and it turns out to be like a bust.
Yeah, and I've done it before. Like I've, like back early on, like I didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I would literally like climb around on Facebook and look for events to go cover. And sometimes I showed up in a parking lot, nobody was there. Like.
Exactly.
So, at least look what kind of activity is on the page. How many posts have they made? Are the event organizers actually commenting in the comment section of the posts? If they are in general, then this is like an active outreach group as opposed to just a booby trap or a ruse. Yeah, and somebody put this in. If possible, don't be alone. Go with somebody if you can. Or plan to meet people someplace outside of the actual protest area. If hey, I'm coming from work, I'll meet you at that McDonald's across the street from the park. Some shit like that. Always
If you
better.
have the option, always like travel in pairs.
Yeah,
always. That's just safety.
Yeah, that goes without saying. Well, actually, now we said it.
So we've basically got the gear down. We've got like the basic practices. Okay, let's say this is someone who may have been to a couple protests. None of them ever got intense. None of them ever had altercations with police or anything like that. What's something you can expect from altercations with police lines?
My first thing is I tell people to look for the warning signs. Like I said previously, if you see police putting on gloves, the ass kicking is coming. If you see, normally at an event, there will be metal police barricades sometimes. Sometimes they just like put out cones and then the cops stand in like a loose wall. And they're mostly there to, quote, contain the protest. If you see like a bus or a bunch of police vans in the back pulling up and more police coming, this is also a sign that the ass kicking is coming, because basically then what they do is one group will maintain that perimeter, and then the second group, once the second group gets in there, will push in, through holes in the perimeter to push people back. Know the gear that police are wearing. For example, police have, a standard like a club, back in the day what they would call a billy club. At protests, though, you will see police who have longer clubs. It'll be like a 3-foot long baton. That's called a riot stick. It is different from a club. The riot stick is longer, and it's used so that police can stand in rows, and if you're one row back, you can still strike at protesters over the head of an officer in front of you who may or may not have a shield or a helmet or some sort of thing. So take a look at police disposition whenever you go. Do they have a large rack of zip ties clipped to their belt? If they do, that mass arrest is on the table. If they have a riot club rather than a standard club, that there's the possibility for riot formation. Police on bicycles. Do not sleep on police on bicycles. People think they're funny and goofy. The bicycles are very lightweight. The police train in picking up the bicycles and using them as a barricade to strike protesters and push people back. The scooter cops you can laugh at. Scooter cops are fucking hilarious. Bike cops are vicious. Do not sleep on bike cops.
Yeah, they have a lot of compensation to make up for.
Yeah, because they don't even get to be on the scooters.
Yeah. Also, keep in mind that the gear switch on the back wheel of bicycles are very, very brittle, and usually snap with a good kick or two. But that's not something you need to keep in mind.
That's fair. Yeah. But these are things like I'm very big on noticing police disposition now. I covered protests in New York City for a long time. New York City has its own challenges, which is very tall buildings. You can't see around stuff. So I got to the point at protests when I would show up, I'd go like 3 blocks away and then walk along the 3-block perimeter. And you'd look for stuff like, are there a bunch of police vans or buses that are parked on side roads, but they don't want you to know they're not at the protest location? Or I would look for like blocks where there would be like literally hidden away like 3 blocks away. They'd have 50 cops on scooters standing by, all parked on the side of the road. So the disposition, there's extra forces there. It's not just the 8 or 10 cops that you see, at a barricade.
There's those zip ties you're talking about.
Yeah. Again, when you see them, and sometimes like police won't have the zip ties, and then as a protest develops, like all of a sudden a cop like shows up literally with a box of them and walks around, and all the cops will take out one bundle and clip them to their belt. And that's where you're like, okay, they've had enough of our shit. Like, and these are all things. So do not sleep. I'm not saying, listen, you don't have to be the person who goes to the protest and screams ACAB and fuck the police and 1312 and all the other shit. Like, you don't have to be that person, but at least pay attention to what the police are doing, to their disposition, to their gear. This is the number one way to stay safe.
Yep. I don't advise talking to cops at all at protests, other than asking them if what is it called? Unlawful assembly is assembled or called. like ask to confirm that, and the only thing else you should say to them is back up. That's it.
Or you
It's
can
the only
ask them for
words.
their name and their badge number.
That too. Okay, so 3 things.
But that pisses them off.
Yeah.
But everything pisses them off. They're cops. Like,
Yeah.
the only thing that doesn't piss them off is the $300 an hour overtime they get paid for beating you.
Yeah, it really sucks. Really, really, the most oppressed class.
Somebody asking me in my chat, any body language to watch out for or just the prep with police? Honestly, the body language comes after the gear, because the gear stuff and the large disposition of police forces will usually tell you more. When you see him putting on gloves, when you see him get the long riot club, when you see him get the zip ties, these are all indicators that business is about to pick up. I would look for that more than, because cops will just literally just be totally chill until 10 seconds before they go to beat your ass. Because it's just another day in the park. Like, a lot of cops like aren't all like, like getting pumped and raged up for shit. They're like, oh, it's just another Tuesday swatting hippies. Like, a lot of them just don't fucking care anymore. It's just like even the joy of that is gone out of their lives. So I wouldn't count on their behavior so much as their gear and how they're stacked around a location and how they're moving.
Yeah, and also most of the time, if you're interacting with an officer, it's not that officer you need to worry about. It's his backup, because whoever comes in second or third, those are going to be the most aggro people.
Right. First cop always sets the perimeter. Second cop always agitates. Third cop always physically pushes back. Those are your waves.
Yeah.
Always your waves.
And someone in chat pointed this out. You may disagree with this. I don't know. But never, ever. I don't care if you're with the SRA. I don't care if you're with like whatever organizing group. Never bring a firearm to a protest. Period. End of story.
In
That's
general,
my take.
Okay, now as somebody who, again, I'm pro firearm, I will agree with you in general. Like most general protests, especially if this is a protest that's being organized on Facebook, or it's a protest that has a quote, there's a march that has a set march route and they have a permit for it. Again, that is a parade permit. It means the organizers are working with the police to make sure that there is minimal disruption. Know your protest. There are some protests where I would bring a firearm. Like there were a lot of like, and the Fed rallies in Atlanta, because there's a Federal Reserve building down there. And like 60% of the people who would show up for those were libertarians with anonymous masks who were definitely military because they had fucking ARs with the backpacks with the center clip on their chest so they could hang the fucking stock of their rifle like off their fucking strap and just like sit there, and they had American flags and shit. Like, if you know there's a bunch of those people coming, you're good. And to be fair, by and large, the only protest I've ever been to multiple times where we've never been fucked with by cops is when there's like 12 armed chuckleheads. Like the cops are just like, yep, cool. But in general, I wouldn't go to a large scale public protest and bring a firearm. No.
Yeah, I just
know your situation and your protest and what you're doing.
Know what you, again, it kind of comes back to my first thing. It's like, know what your role is and what you want to do. If you think your role is to go in there and be like Antifa super soldier, like who's got like the AK with like, the ANCAP or ANCOM flag painted on the butt of it, like you need to stay at home.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Or go out by yourself and come home by yourself and don't get other people in danger.
Yeah. I would also, I did this with Chad yesterday. When you're thinking of like protest tactics and like how to avoid altercations with the police, look to the Hong Kong protests, because they have a lot of stuff we can learn from their tactics and how to evade not only being arrested, but any kind of altercations you can have with police. Hand signals, communicating on encrypted platforms like Telegram. These are all really good strategies. Laser lights to distract not only cameras and drones, but police as well. Laser lights are very effective, and I'm surprised we didn't use too many in 2020. It was really weird.
They're considered illegal now in a lot of places.
Yeah.
Which is wild. Like you would think, I understand some places where they make like knives illegal or handguns illegal, population density. There's a multitude of factors that go into it. But the laser pointer thing is something they got hep to. And it's funny because you can buy them in any fucking hardware store for like $8. But yet they're like, if you get caught carrying one, like they can shake you down for it. So it's pretty, that shit's wild to me. So somebody brought something else up. I got to throw this out here. No matter what level of protest you're going to, whether you're a first-time protester and you're going to something that's easy peasy, lemon squeezy and soft and liberally, or, you're going to go do some black box shit, always assume that you were being recorded. Always assume that you were being photographed. Always assume that you are within voice reach of somebody with a microphone on a phone or a cop. Always assume all of this stuff. And so if you are going to go out and do anything even remotely, and I'm not even saying shady, like you're planning on getting arrested, let's say you're going to do a public disturbance. You're going to lock yourself to the door of something. You're going to lay down in the street to block traffic until you get arrested, whatever it is. When you get to that level of stuff, this is where I tend to reverse a lot of my advice for first timers. And this is where I say stuff like park further away from the event space, or if you're taking public transit, get off 1 or 2 stops earlier. Get changed and put on your face covering before you get to the event. God forbid something happens, make law enforcement have to work at fucking reverse engineering your trail with all the different cameras on the street and all the different like stores that have cameras, because the police will sweep an entire area. Mm-hmm. Like I have a lot of like my stuff reverses when you get to, what are you doing when you're an experienced protester, So somebody said, turn off your phone. Turning off your phone only helps in certain instances. You still have the GPS in there. The police more and more get warrants, granted for batch data sweeps and stuff like that. In general, unless you're going to live stream a protest and that's what you do, and you're an experienced protester and you're going to go do protest, write phone numbers on your arms before you leave your house and leave your phone there.
Yeah. And if you can't do that, aluminum foil around your phone. It's not going to completely protect it, but it's going to make data inconsistent.
True. Yeah, either of these are good. Like again, we were wild. Like I had a small Faraday cage that we built in an old like 40s ammo box. Like the large top lid ammo boxes for like 50 cal rounds. And we built like a small lead line Faraday in there. And so when we would drive to protest, we'd all put our cell phones in the cage and we put it in the back of the fucking car. Like once we got like, close. And then once we got like a little ways away, we'd pull out and then take them out.
There you go.
But again, that's like wild shit. Now that sounds wild, but you could go online and learn how to build one in an ammo box. And it takes like 5 minutes and $12 worth of hardware from Home Depot. Which, let's get to Home Depot. Hey, things you suggest for levels of protesters that you can buy at Home Depot or a local hardware store. Go. What do you got?
So those little clips that people have for their keychains, have a couple of those on you, because
like
you never know what you need to.
Clips?
Exactly. You know which ones. Good ones preferably, because the cheaper ones can break pretty easily. It's good just to have to put stuff on your backpack or on your belt if you need it. Safety gloves. Okay. So hang on, actually 1 second. Let me go grab mine.
Yeah. Oh, and somebody in my chat, they're carabiners is what they're called. The large, they're usually, some kind of alloy clip. So they're lightweight. If you have a backpack, normally you'll have like large, like a plastic or metal hooks in a backpack on the front, and you can clip a carabiner to it. Like I had like a thing for my camera so I could hang it from my backpack if I had to run. Or if I needed both hands to keep cops off, I could literally just take it and clip it to my chest, and then I'd have both hands again. You'd be surprised the amount of shit that you would need to clip. Strap on your backpack brakes while you're walking around. Or I know people joke about the fanny pack. The only place a fanny pack is acceptable is at a protest, especially if you're like a fucking medic. Hit me.
Fanny
what do you got?
packs are very useful.
Yes.
Okay, so I don't know if you have my stream up, but so these are my motorcycle gloves, but I also wore them at protests because one, it has wrist protection. Two, they're abrasion resistant. You don't understand how much you can mess up your hands until you get knocked over and you have to catch yourself on pavement.
Yeah.
You don't want to mess up your wrist or like cut open your hand in the middle of a protest. Okay. Also, it's got knuckle protection on my digits and on the top, so that's helpful. Don't get like gardening gloves, like the welder gloves that you see everybody who works at your local plant has. Don't get those. Get something with dexterity. You don't want to have like mittens on at a protest. Also, never grab tear gas canisters with your bare hands.
No, they are extremely hot. There's a chemical reaction going on inside their aluminum canisters. The surface temp on them is about 160 something degrees when they're rocking. So no, good advice.
On the amateur, I guess if we're going to scale this from like amateur to veteran protester, amateur would be like gloves, good shoes, maybe some knee pads. You can pick those up in like the home and garden section or the hardware section. Knee pads are good. On the more veteran side, tire pressure pin removers.
No comment.
Yeah.
Somebody was asking in my chat about gas masks. If you can't afford a gas mask, the rebreather masks that they'll sell usually in the drywall section, like the 3M masks, it'll basically be 2 pad filters like this and a thing that goes over your nose and the mouth. Not the greatest, but if you're at an outdoor protest, you have to understand that unless you're getting pepper spray at point blank range, most of your spray and most of your gas, it's moving in the air. There's a lot of people. So even that minimal amount of protection is a lot better than nothing, when they are launching off tear gas canisters.
Yeah.
They're not gas masks. Don't get them confused and think they're gas masks, because they're not.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's a even moderately organized protest that's been for something like ongoing and you are considering getting a helmet, I mean, a typical construction helmet is fine, but I would recommend that no one go to a protest with a helmet on that is anything less than DOT or ECE certified, because certain projectiles will blast right through a regular ass helmet.
They will. That's a thing. I know I've gotten and people in my chat know, over the course of a decade, I've gotten hit with everything. I can tell you the different kind of pepper spray by the taste of it. The difference between fucking tear gas and smoke grenades, stun grenades. Always my personal favorite is the shotgun beanbag rounds and the pepper ball that look like paintball. Both of those are shot from what they call less than lethal weapons. You'll know what those are because the police will be carrying a gun. They'll have some kind of neon colored stock, or the entire firearm will be neon green or neon orange. So it'll be a shotgun that shoots bean bags, or it'll be a gun that shoots pepper ball pellets. Don't get it twisted. These things at close range and aimed at your head can kill you. Most of these munitions, even stuff like tear gas canisters, when they shoot them, the way you're supposed to use them when you deploy them is you shoot them at people's feet and the gas comes up like this. They purposely aim for people's heads. I have a friend who's a co-live streamer. If you're into this sort of footage, you might know him. Guy by the name of Revolutionary Z. So Reb at No Dapple got half his hand shot off in the middle of a protest. He was a live streamer, had the cell phone in his hand, and cops at the barricades, they were literally playing games to see if they could shoot the cell phones out of people's hands. And it ripped 2 of his fingers out. And he's had to have 7 surgeries. He has a stump, he's got scars all over his hand. He's all fucked up. So this is all part and parcel of shit that happens out there, people.
Yeah. Lots of eyes get lost at more aggressive protests or police riots, we'll say.
Yeah. So what else do you got? And while you're talking, I'm going to get a piece of gear I want to show to media and live stream people. So you got it for a sec. Give people something else.
Yeah, we'll do tit for tat. I'll grab another one of my pieces of equipment when you get back. Okay. So if you have the budgeting for it, chatters, and you want to do this, having your group be able to see each other in a crowd, just getting reflective vests is good. If you are part of an organizing group, getting a bunch of cheap reflective vests is also good. That way everyone knows who's part of the organizing. It's also good for motorists. Reflective vest is a good investment. Let's see. I'm just reading through everybody's chat.
All right. Let me show you what I got here. So I got two things. So number one, on your helmet stuff, I'm going to throw this out here for people who can't afford good gear. This in general was what I used to rock, which was a Bell rock climbing helmet. This will at least protect your noggin against billy clubs. This will not protect you against heavy munitions. This will not protect you against tear gas canisters shot at your head. But this will protect you at least against like a beanbag round. This will protect you against getting beaten by cops. And they're literally like $12. Also, you can mount a GoPro mount on the front of them. And you can literally set a GoPro to just video record and just leave this thing on the top of your head and run the entire fucking protest. And it's literally like a small case that goes onto the it. So a little something. And then this, I'm going to pull out. So this is the best thing I could suggest for camera work. Hang on. Let me just bring up a different background video real quick. And then I'll show you the big thing. So this is the big nasty. Oh, look, Rage Against the Machine. This is my favorite. I recorded Rage Against the Machine live at the RNC. They played in like burnt out tenement section of Cleveland. It was fucking pog. I get to like hang out with them. So I cannot suggest one of these enough. If you shoot footage at a protest, if you're a media person, and this is how I came up, this right here is the best thing I have ever bought in my life. I cannot recommend it enough. You can buy these on Amazon. They're about $20. This is essentially a collapsible Steadicam arm mount for your shoulder. You'll see what this looks like right here. And they sell these if you look for like shoulder mount for DSLR or something like that on Amazon. You can find these are about $22. It has a shoe mount on the top, a flat shoe mount. So you can screw almost any kind of camera or video cam into the bottom of it. It has a detachable arm that opens up. So this part goes on your shoulder. This part rests against your chest. And so when you have a camera, you hold the camera. A, you can go no hand. B, you can go one hand and you're totally secure. You can pan. You can do everything. You can get news camera quality video doing run and gun without needing a $12,000 camera to do so. You can put a $300 video camera on the top of this thing. And it's rock solid because it's this part hooks over the top of your shoulder and this part is spring loaded against your chest. So it's like having a shoulder Steadicam mount for $22. And then when you're done, you can just crank it back. You get one of the carabiners you were talking about. You clip this to your backpack. The thing weighs like 1.5 pounds. The best piece of gear if you do media out in the field. You're going to go out and spend $300 on some fucking handheld Steadicam gimbal where you have to change the batteries and hold the thing in one hand. You're silly. $22. Done.
Yep.
What do you got? Oh, look
What
at
do I
you.
got? Yeah.
Okay.
I do look like a boogaloo right now. Hang on. Let me complete the illusion.
You do
here.
have the Hawaiian shirt with the fucking with the vest over it.
Oh, hold up. I'm gonna do the piece de resistance real quick.
Oh, if that was a Bass Pro Shop hat, you'd have had me.
There we go. Now I look like I'm ready to drink some White Claws with the boys.
And everybody in my chat who's asking, I'm with Gremloe. If you go, I can't bring Gremloe's. If I bring Gremloe in, it'll. Oh wait. I think let me
Just
do
bring
something.
up my stream.
Yeah, I can bring it up on my other. I stream 2 computers, so everything.
Oh, you got a dual setup. Okay.
Everything's more complicated. Hang on, I'll bring it up real quick and just.
I look like I'm an informant right now.
To be fair, I always look like a cop. I just look like a cop wearing Adidas at the moment.
Yeah.
Trust me, it's. I go places and everybody's just like, "Oh, look, a cop." Like,
I've lost some weight since I last wore this.
Yeah, I don't realize I lose or gain weight until I see video footage from 2 years ago, and then I'm either damn I got fat or damn I lost
Yeah.
weight. I'm so like oblivious to it at this point. All right, so this way you can see Grem. As you can see, Grem is rocking out with the vest, the hat, the avian. You look like you should be writing a manifesto. No,
Oh,
you
yeah.
look like you have a manifesto.
Oh yeah, I have several. I
You
got
look
one
like
for every time a Democrat was elected.
you look like you're one photocopier away from doing crime. So you want to tell people the difference in vests, because I heard you discussing it yesterday, and you have a good grasp on the difference between flak, plate, and etc.
So I don't know the super detailed stuff. You can get plate carriers online for very cheap, okay? The plates themselves, many people don't know this, actually have expiration dates on them. So if you're picking one up, like make sure the expiration date is within your timeline. This is actually a 4-plate carrier. It's got one on each side, one on the chest, one on the back, and I have another I have a cod piece as well that velcros onto it. So you can have
Right.
full protection, but most of the
Priorities. Priorities.
Yeah.
I can tell you're still a young, virile man.
time. Yeah, well, not for long, dude. I'm
That's
getting
right.
the snips soon.
I heard. I didn't want to,
No, you're good. You're good. I mean, I'm open about it, dude. Normalize men doing reproductive health care. That's what I say.
Oh, no, I know you're okay with it. I just didn't want to be the dude
No,
just
you're
flippantly bringing up your junk because,
No, you're good. You're
I
good.
mean, we know each other. We don't know each other that well. That's a little
Yeah.
weird, dog.
Well, I mean, strange times.
Just, hey, how's your dick? Just,
It's good.
it's good. It's
Oh,
good.
Jesus.
Thanks for asking.
Yeah. Yeah. Little to the left, as always.
Always. Oh, you're left. Cool. Yeah. Oh, good Lord.
yeah.
How did I end up with shorts on here?
Hang on one sec.
So does everybody out there, do you feel like maybe you got some useful information here today so far? Some things
One question I got yesterday from somebody, and I didn't really know how to answer it, is like, how do you see a kettle coming, and how do you avoid being kettled?
Oof.
Big question, because it depends.
Okay, so seeing a kettle coming is, I think, is actually pretty easy. The police tend to, so you have two different kind of kettles. Maybe let me start there. So for those who don't know what a kettle looks like, the implement of a kettle is basically a large neon green mesh net. It's usually about 3 to 4 feet high, and it's very long, and they unroll it. And basically, they will literally take this and unroll it and like walk into you or sweep into you. They'll be like, "Oh, we've put up a barricade. You're not allowed to walk past us now, criminal." And you just go, "Oh, shucks," and you stand there and wait to get arrested. So things to know. So a kettle will be used to corral people. Usually, the way they'll deploy a kettle is they'll get a squad a few blocks ahead of you, and they'll sit on the corner of the road, and you'll just see a few cops. And then as you come running up, all of a sudden one or two of them will take it and they'll start running across the street and unwinding it. And they'll try to like flare out so you can't walk past the corners of it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is like a physical kettle technique. Now, I mean, the police can use, like I've said before, they can use bicycles where they'll pick up like the bicycle cops. They pick up the 10 speeds. And you get like a line of these cops, or God forbid, a semicircle of them. And they literally holding these bikes, like push into you, and they'll push you up, in a semicircle against a wall or against some police vehicles. So they can physically kettle you without a net, but the net is something that they normally use because once you have like 12, 15 cops holding it, it's an effective barricade, and this way they don't have to drag the metal barricades with them. Somebody's like, can the net be cut through? It can be, but now you're taking out a box cutter knife in front of a cop who's holding a net, and they will consider that a physical threat, and you will get arrested.
Also, destruction of city property, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, but more importantly, they'll start yelling knife, and you're going to get shot either, whether it's with a non-lethal or lethal weapon, you're getting clipped here. And hey, real quick, just people on my screen, this footage that I'm showing, this was a Black Lives Matter footage in New York. further up on this footage will actually be the footage that I had that was on the BBC Cop Watch documentary. So just throwing that out there because I actually did stuff
something to
once.
keep in mind for anybody who's at a protest and there is like a police line. Look for who has what's called bars. Basically the supervisor. They're most likely going to be like in the back of the line to give orders. And that's the person you want to keep an eye on the most, because once they start like getting on walkie-talkie, start like, pacing back and forth, trying to talk to people on the line, something's about to happen. Second rule of thumb, cops don't run until.
Right. They reserve their energy. You have to understand a standard cop, even these people on my screen, and these are the blue shirts, which means they're the community cops.
Yeah.
They're the friendly cops. They don't have much gear, so you're only wearing a belt that has about 8 pounds. A standard police belt has about 15 pounds of gear. If you're carrying like a firearm, a stun gun, a club, a radio, it's all hard leather. It's about 15 pounds. God forbid they have to go out there with even like the big helmets on. Like the cops reserve their energy. So they will normally walk. You will see cops rotate every few blocks out of vehicles if it's an exceptionally long protest, or you'll notice every 20 blocks you go, all of a sudden like new cops join the protest, and the cops who have been walking with you for a mile will peel off and go into the police bus and they drive up. They have to rotate the cops out. As a protester, staying relatively lightweight, legitimately you can run the cops into the ground. And moving fast is how you stay ahead of the kettle. Because the kettle doesn't just happen. The kettle comes because you're moving at 2 miles an hour and they get a unit 8 blocks ahead. If you're moving at 4.5 miles an hour, it's a lot more difficult for them to kettle you.
Yeah. Keep your protest together, like fill in gaps, like, very common sense stuff. Don't agitate if you have the option. Don't say shit to cops. Don't say LARPy shit at protests. Like nothing, because there's chances are almost 100% of the time there's cops in the protest with you.
Plus, and if I can use this as an example on my screen, so what you were talking about in bars, usually in your larger cities, you'll notice the uniform differential. So in New York, we call them white shirts. Those would be what you would call your superior officers, your captains, your sergeants, your lieutenants. Like in DC, like the DC Park Police wear white, and then the commanding officers wear light blue. Philly, I think the cops are blue, the superior officers are white. So in most like places, you can tell that it's only in small towns where pretty much all the cops will wear the same uniform. When you get into larger cities, they usually have a uniform differential.
Yeah. And don't fuck with sheriffs. Sheriffs are like the most aggro of all cops.
Yes. Yes, because they're publicly elected.
Just,
they're just
don't
angry.
interact. Yeah, just don't interact. And if they say shit to you, just fucking move away.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is a lot of good stuff. I mean, the most important things to take away are be as prepared as possible, especially with what you bring, which is depending on the protest you're going to and depending on what you're going there to do. Keep your head on a swivel and stay with your pack. If you're a inexperienced protester, you're the suburban soccer mom, you're the young 20s, you've never been to a protest before, stay with the peaceful part of the march, with and I'm not saying this offensively, like middle-aged people who look like suburbanites, people with, homemade vote for Hillary Clinton signs, like there's security in numbers, stay with who you are. If you're there to do more protestery shit, you'll know those people in the crowd, you'll be able to pick them out, those are your people. But keep your head on a swivel and always notice the police disposition. The police will telegraph what they're going to do before they do it. And if you're somebody who can't risk arrest, if you're somebody who 1,000%, you're physically fucked up, you can't afford to like any kind of physical confrontation. You have kids at home that you have to get back home to. This isn't like a poo-poo on anybody. If you're fucking undocumented, like there's a million reasons why you just can't afford to even risk arrest at all. Note the police disposition. They will always telegraph what they're going to do before they do it.
Yeah. And I guess we can end with the last tip for anyone who encounters chemical agents. Pepper spray and tear gas. Some people will say milk. I say it's better to have water or some kind of saline solution. What's that?
In a spray mist bottle.
Spray mist bottle, yeah. Spray mist bottles are very cheap and easy to pick up. Dollar General, Walmart, CVS, you can find them everywhere.
They're usually plastic. They're small. They're about yay big, and it's like a pump, like a like an old school bottle of Windex, or it has a little handle like this, like for misters when it's hot. And you go, literally, they're like 49 cents.
Yeah, unless you see somebody pull some milk out of a like ice chest, then don't do milk. The last thing you want is spoiled milk being poured into your cornea.
It's so damn hot.
Milk's a bad idea.
Milk was a bad choice.
Can't recommend that enough. Yeah, you don't know how many hours somebody's been carrying that milk around in their backpack in 95-degree weather. You honestly don't know. Unless somebody comes out of like a fucking store and it still has like condensation on the outside of it. Yeah, nah.
Yeah.
So
also whole milk. Okay?
Yeah,
none of that 2%.
No, the fats in the milk is what counters the effect of the capsaicin or a lot of the other chemical agents they use that cause burning. Yeah. It's actually the fat in the milk.
Yeah.
So.
Which some people, like during 2020, I saw a lot of very dumb posts of like people who clearly like hadn't done this shit before, who would say like, oh, if you put a teaspoon of baking powder in your water and then use that as a solution. It's like, do you want to blind people?
No. Just water's fine. Water's fine, but in a mister's better because in a bottle, you can pour the whole bottle in somebody's eyeball and you got none left. With a mister, you can do multiple applications and you're not using a lot of water and you're literally spraying it in, which is better than pouring it.
Yeah. You can get like misters for terrariums at PetSmart for like $15 where you just like pump it and then you could just hold a button down and it sprays.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I just used to use I found like a trigger spray bottle at CVS for 49 cents, and like I said, I always carry like a tall bottle of water, like the $1.89 bottles. Yeah, and they'll usually be like the tall bottles, and then I'd have like a water bottle, and I'd probably go out with a Red Bull, have a couple Cliff Bars in my bag. People, it's hotter out there than you know. You even standing around for hours before you go marching. Water. Cannot say it enough. You will dehydrate the shit out of yourself out there.
Yeah, and don't do what Deadlock in my chat is suggesting and think that, oh, fat is good for chemical agent alleviation. Well, I'm just going to rub some bacon in my eyes. You might have some spicy bacon for later, but I can tell you, buddy, you don't want that shit. You don't want that smoke.
Yeah, no. Milk, like fat milk is the best thing, but again, it's got to be cold. It's got to be, once it starts to turn, you don't want that in your eyeball. Yo, Gremloe, I really appreciate you jumping in and doing this with me because it was something I was going to do anyway, but I heard you covering it yesterday and you seem like you know your shit. So always happy to link up with somebody to do stuff like this.
I appreciate it, man. I got the James from the internet seal of approval for protest, so I appreciate it. And thank you for, having a chat with me. I needed content and this was great.
I am always happy to help other content creators create content.
There we go.
I'm a giver. Right. I appreciate you, Gremloe.
Thank you so much, dude. I'll talk to you later.
Be good, man. Cheers.